Hello, beautiful people. Hello, beautiful darlings. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paballo, a South African booktuber. Welcome. If you're new, welcome. You're welcome. Hi. Hope you're good. Today we are reviewing I Choose to Leave Life After Losing Gugu by Letshego Zulu. So guys, this book took me 3 days to finish reading it, and I promise you it will probably take you a day or two if you are just reading it and not being distracted by anything. It is that good, and this review might be a spoiler because it's very good, and I feel like I should just share the whole book with you. And either way, you will buy it because it's a book you need in your life. This book falls under the category of favorite books. My favorite books because it's my favorite book. It's one of my favorite books. It's like it falls under top 10 of my favorite books. Literally, like it is so good. It's a book you want to take with you everywhere. It's a book that is so well written, well edited, so well descriptive, and it just flows like the water. It's just nice, man. Like, it's nice. I cried reading this book, literally. Tears were just flowing out of my eyes, like, yo. So, Letshego Zulu is Gugu Zulu's wife. If you know Gugu, you know that he was a racer, he was an adventurer, he was involved in a lot of sporting activities, and he and his wife decided that they would go summit Mount Kilimanjaro, and they prepared for this. They prepared for the summit, and when he got to Kilimanjaro, he had flu-like symptoms, and he spoke to the doctor, and I think the doctor was like, no, it's fine, you're okay. And as they went through the mountain, his symptoms just escalated, and 2 days later he then he suffered from vomiting and diarrhea, but his wife didn't know about it because he hid it so well. I think he and God were playing this thing very nicely, because he didn't want his wife to know about these symptoms, and he didn't want his wife to worry too much to a point where she would suggest that they descend the mountain, and that would tamper with God's plan. And I'm not creating this. Letshego said this. Okay. So Gugu then got really sick, and he suffered from high altitude pulmonary edema. The oxygen becomes thin, and it becomes so difficult for one to breathe and function like a normal person when you're up there. So when you are suffering from flu or any other illnesses, you won't make it up there. Like, so I think at that time he was really sick, and that got to a point where the doctor gave him a drip, and that drip was meant to energize him, but it didn't. He drowned from the drip when the doctors told the wife what had happened with him, and he died. He died. And I cried because I had put myself in Letshego's shoes and tried to imagine these things happening to me, and I was like, wow, hey, I don't know how I would have survived if I was faced in such a situation. And she had such a good support system from the time he was sick in the mountain to the time of his burial. Let me tell you something about this woman. She is a storyteller. She is such a great storyteller. Although the story is sad, but the way she tells the story, how she relates the events prior to the passing of her husband, it's so amazing. She knows how to put you in that situation, and you sort of feel what she was feeling, because the way in which she shares the story is so beautiful. And it's like those stories that your mom tell you on a random day, and she's just telling you about this one day when things happened, and you're just listening attentively and you want to hear more. You don't want to disturb yet, you want to know more. It's that sort of story. Like, the way she tells us, I really loved how when she was angry at Gugu, while they were on the mountain, and Gugu had decided that he would go through the mountain with the other group and not the group that his wife was on. He was on that group initially. It's like a group for those who are fit and they are fast. And then he decided that, you know what, I am no longer going to join your group. I'm going to join this one because, you know, I'm not feeling well. And so Letshego didn't take this well, because she and Gugu had planned this thing for so long, and she felt like, you know, this guy is just pulling away from this thing that we had started. This is our dream, and now you just want to be by yourself and you want to leave me by myself. So when she describes how they had a conversation and how Gugu just came to her and said, love, what's wrong? And, you know, they had this conversation, and he took her and he gave her a big hug. The way she describes the hugs and the kisses and Gugu's smile is just so beautiful. So beautiful. Storytelling, guys. It feels like fiction. It sort of feels like fiction. It's, ooh, yeah. The reason why Letshego wrote this book was as a tribute to her husband, and also to share with us how she overcame losing Gugu, and sharing with us how she dealt with it, the emotions that came with losing her husband, the steps she took in choosing to leave, because ultimately that's what she did. She's choosing to leave even though the husband died. And that's so beautiful, because a lot of us, when we are in grief, we tend to lose ourselves, and we mourn to a point where we don't realize the beautiful things that we have, like our kids. In her case, she has a child, and obviously this child needs her emotionally, and she chose to be present in her child's life and not sulk or show those hurtful emotions towards her child, because, you know what, she didn't want her child to also like adopt that contagious feeling. And so those are the steps she took towards her her, her choosing to live a positive life, a life that would later change people's lives, like writing this book. It's life changing, and I like that in this book she shares the lessons that keep her living and going and reaching certain milestones in her life. And my personal favorite is being present, being mindful, and calm assessment, and also being aware of false fear. Now, I will tell you about being present. She's saying that, you just need to be there and focus on the now. Like, she quoted my favorite guy, Eckhart Tolle, and I was like, wow, this woman likes Eckhart Tolle. I also like Eckhart Tolle because he's the guy that focuses on the now. He wrote the book The Power of Now, realizing that we let our minds run away with us when we can enjoy the present moment. And she's saying that she's embracing to live in the now, just like children, because children only know how to live for the now and not think about what's going to happen next or what happened back then. So living in the presence, just, it gives you a sense of calmness, which takes me to my second favorite lesson, which is mindfulness and calm assessment. So this lesson is talking about being mindful and being calm in certain situations. She related to a situation when she had gotten into an accident, and when she went to check her car, it wasn't dented. Instead, the car that had bumped onto her bumped on the tow bar, and the guy's car was the one that was dented. And she says that she just calmed herself down, and she went to assess the situation, and she realized that she's not affected. Therefore, she just said, sorry my guy, good luck with fixing your car. And she went, and had she stomped out of the car and caused the scene and realized that her car is not dented. I mean, certain things like that. So she's just saying that when you're mindful and you are calm, you are able to assess a situation and come up with better solutions. So I really loved that lesson. And the third lesson I really loved so much and I appreciated is be aware of false fear. And I'm going to read this one for you. It says, fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. You can't embrace life if you live in fear. And that is so true for many of us, especially me. I have a tendency of overreading things and overthinking them to a point where I bring fear to something that really doesn't require me to be fearful of, So I really appreciate it so much that fear is only in the mind. And when you start feeling fear over a situation, just think about it. Think why you feel this feeling and how you can overcome it. Because in most cases, it's the mind that's saying, no, actually, no, are you sure? Or do you think you can do this? That's our mind telling us that we can't do things. And so I really loved that she shared so many of these lessons, especially this one that I too have to work on. And hopefully I will achieve most of the things that I want to achieve. by letting go of this fear. I really love and appreciate these lessons so much. So, a year later, after Gugu's passing, Letshego decided to go back to Mount Kilimanjaro to summit and finish off what she and Gugu had started. And I really commend this woman so much for taking that initiative when people thought it was too soon for her to go back to Mount Kilimanjaro. And for her, it's something that she wanted to do, and it's something that she thought she really needed to do so that she can finish this race that she and her husband had started. Letshego then, every point where she and Gugu shared in the mountain, she'd just take a moment and take it in. And she says that she felt Gugu's spirit with her throughout the journey. And I have to say, I really appreciate how she relates this experience to us, because a lot of us don't know how hard and how difficult it is to summit Kilimanjaro. And when she described how the oxygen got thin and how it was so difficult for them to breathe, some people were hallucinating, seeing things there, and I was too curious and wondered what this woman was talking about. Surely it's not a big deal. That's what I thought initially. And I found this guy by the name of Erik Conorva, who filmed his journey to Kilimanjaro, and his video it was like, when I saw the video and thought about what Letshego was saying, it was almost the same thing, only then it was in a video form, and I could relate so much to what she was saying, because when she was talking about this thing, I really wanted to experience it myself. And let me just tell you, one day if you want to go to Kilimanjaro, please prepare yourself. Take whatever vaccinations they are taking, the medication, so that you can prepare yourself. But you need to prepare yourself physically, emotionally. That thing takes a lot from people. After I saw that video and after I read what Letshego described, I was like, wow, Kilimanjaro is so underrated, but guys, it's not a child's play. It's not. The way in which she describes that 5 kilometers, it took them so long to get to Uhuru Peak. That's how demanding that peak is. Just to get to Uhuru Peak, it just takes a lot from everyone. I don't care if Chuck Norris, like, that mountain is so demanding. And so she made it, and when she got there, she was so happy. And she says that Gugu had planned that when they reached the top of the mountain, he was going to scream their child's name. And so she just managed to whisper the name because she couldn't scream. And she felt so proud. She took out a flag, a South African flag that had Gugu's face, and she said, "We made it." So she summited the mountain a year later, and I feel so proud of her. I feel like I should do this, like Kilimanjaro. She says that life after the funeral was so lonely. That's when she started feeling the loss of her husband, and she didn't say depressed, but I will say depressed for a lack of a better word. She said she was feeling down, and it felt like a mountainous step to just get a cup of coffee or take a bath. It just took so much, because that's when she just felt everything, the emotions, the loss, and thinking about her child who was just like a year old, and it was too much. It was, I think, 3 or 4 months after the passing of Gugu. She wasn't having it. She wasn't having a good time, and I suppose that's how you feel after losing a loved one. And so one day she received a call from a friend that had asked her what she was doing, and she said, nah, nothing much. And the friend was like, when last did you go to gym? Sorry. And she thought about it and realized that the last time she worked out was when they were descending down the mountain to try to save Gugu's life. And that lady was like, Letshego Zulu, you know what, Gugu would be ashamed to see you sulking like that, feeling sorry for yourself. Just pick up yourself. Like, she said something like that. And for her, it was like a wake-up call. That's when she realized that, she should stop feeling sorry for herself and just start her life all over again. Of course, it's not easy, but she started working out, and doing certain things that really helped her so much. And one of the things was connecting with people that had reached out to her. One particular woman was, I forgot her name, but she also lost her husband a year before Gugu at Mount Kilimanjaro. And unlike Gugu, her husband fell on the mountain, and it was so painful. I can imagine something like that happening to your spouse while you're there, and so they supported each other. She had so many people that had supported her, including friends and family, to overcome this thing, to take it as one step at a time, so that she could live her life to the fullest, as she is doing right now. After accepting that, or one of the reasons that made Letshego to accept Gugu's passing and how it happened, was that Kilimanjaro was one of the things that Gugu wanted to do, that was on his bucket list, and he couldn't stop talking about summiting Mount Kilimanjaro and fantasizing about what would happen when he did, what would happen when he got there, and when he got to the mountain, and when he got to that point where he said it was a blanket above the clouds, something like that. But basically what he was saying is that they were above the clouds, like they could see the clouds underneath them, and it was the most beautiful thing that he had ever seen. And he kept on taking pictures and saying that this is so beautiful, and he loved every moment. So she was saying that it was very fitting for him to die on Kilimanjaro, because Kilimanjaro was one of the things that Gugu spoke most about. And the ring that Gugu had bought for her, composed of a precious stone found on Kilimanjaro called the Tanzanite. And she just said, I'm so happy that he departed there, although the situation wasn't okay at the moment, but she's happy that he died at a place that he really loved the most. And maybe it was God's plan and Gugu's plan spiritually that he died at that place that he really loved so much. So I really love that so much, like how she makes sense of things, especially that one. It was so beautiful. That page, I would have read it for you, but I couldn't find it and I didn't mark it, so as you see, you're gonna have to buy the book. This book has so many things that are life lessons, and these lessons we can apply in our lives, and these relationships that she has, and the way she explains the support system and how close and how present Gugu was in people's lives. It's so, it just reminds me that, you know, really no man is an island. You need people to survive. You need to have a very strong support system to overcome whatever it is that you're going through. And the relationship Letshego has with Gugu's family is so beautiful. There was a point where when she was there at the hotel, immediately after this whole thing, Gugu's sister and her friend came by to the hotel, you know, just to give her support. And they were told to speak to Gugu's spirit, take a white cloth and speak to Gugu's spirit, you know, just to tell him that, okay, we are taking you now, we are going to a plane just to travel back home because this is what happened. And the way in which she says her and Gugu's sister were both changing, sharing this cloth, taking turns to speak to Gugu was so beautiful. And I just thought, wow, hey, like spirituality is something else, and it comes to us in different forms. And to her, it came at a time when she really didn't know these things, and she ended up going to mediums to try to connect with Gugu, and it really helped her so much. So support system is very important in our lives, guys. And the relationships, they don't have to be a lot, but the ones we have, we must always cherish them. That's what I took away from this book, and I will forever be grateful for that reminder. I just want to take this opportunity and thank Letshego Zulu for such a wonderful book. This is a masterpiece, and anyone, if you know Letshego Zulu or if you see her, please just tell her Paballo Seipei says hi, and she sends a warm and big hug, because this book is literally a mother of the nation type of book. You need this book in your life, guys. Like, get this book, you need it, because I say you need it, really. Like, honestly, it's everything. I think I've said what I needed to say, and if you really liked this review, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment, you know, so that you and I can talk about these books. And guys, the way I love this book, I wish I had Oprah Winfrey's capabilities. I would have bought like 100 copies and gave them to you just like that, because I really love it. So I really hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you on my next video. So bye.